All right, what's up, guys? This is Will from here at Res Roots. This is a special podcast. I want to just thanking God for this opportunity, just to be here at Warrior Leadership Summit, spending time with many of my Native American brothers and sisters all around the U.S. And I would introduce them, but I would like them to introduce themselves. And when you guys want to go first?
What's going on? I'm sorry. I know. I just felt like Will was being really calm and chill, and I was like, "Is he doing jazz radio?" Because I love it.
ASMR.
ASMR. Yeah, I love it. It's great. My name is Marty. This is Fern.
Yes, and we're Social Club Misfits.
We're Social Club Misfits, and we make Christian hip hop music, and we're based out of South Florida. We've been doing this for 10 years. That 10th year, Will.
Yeah,
Crazy.
10 years.
10th year.
Yeah.
And man, we've been so privileged. It's an honor to. I really think about this every day. How much of a privilege and an honor it is to be able to do this and provide for our families and so forth. And also like the idea that what we're doing now has been something that we've been praying for years. And so, sometimes I think when you get what you ask for, you can get too comfortable and be like, you know what, I wish it was better, but this is what we prayed for. And so I really believe that we're in a literal miracle. And so we're so happy to be here. Where are we exactly, Will? We're in
Carlinville, Illinois.
Carlinville, Illinois. Yeah. There's so it's like I don't know where you are right now in the world, but if you walk outside,
there's a sizzler.
And there's a bunch of goats and cows, and I was sitting outside. I almost fell asleep.
Yeah.
And there's just birds chirping. It feels amazing. And we're just happy to be here. We're performing tonight. And this is the pre-show podcast with Will. What's the name of the podcast, by the way?
It's called Res Roots.
Res Roots? I love it.
How we call our places reservation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Res and Roots. So
it's incredible.
I live in Hollywood, Florida, right next to the Seminole Indian Reservation.
Yeah.
On 64th Avenue.
Oh,
Sheridan
wow.
Street.
Dang.
I grew up with Seminole Indians my whole life, so I've been to the reservation a few times. Ironically enough, it's locked up now. You have to go through a guard gate, super private now. It used to be open to the public back in the 90s, but it's not anymore. But shout out to all my Seminoles in Florida, man. Much love.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys, what was your I'm gonna ask that first. How did you come to know the Lord, and how did He come into your guys' lives, and how did you guys come together? And
we'll break that up in several different answers. I'll let you know how I came to the Lord. I'm a pastor's son, so I was born into the church situation. My dad's a pastor, and my mom, as well. And they led me to Christ. They introduced me to Christ through living a godly life. They showed me the example. And, I played the drums at church. I did the sound at church. I did, what a lot of pastor sons do, you just try to help out and do the best you can growing up. But, one thing that I like to always say is that a lot of people know my story. Even though I went the other way later on in life, I always thank God that I was blessed with Christian parents to install that GPS, I like to call it, because I knew where to come home to. When I got my wits right, once I realized, I had to go to prison. I had to go through a lot of stuff that somebody what you would say, somebody, what? When I was in prison, people were like, what? You're in here? How? But, at the end of the day, I just thank God that I was able to come back home. I'm like the literal living prodigal son story, both of us, what we went through and the things that we had to go through to come home are things for albums, movies, and I think that's probably why we do music and constantly telling stories as storytellers, because God has done so many things in our life, and we just need different platforms to always tell a different story. So music has been that for us. But I just thank God I had a praying mom, a preaching father who led me to the Lord early in life, and I was able to come home even though I went my own way. I just thank God for that.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to tell you, I love being in this back room, because it feels like, if you've ever seen The Wire, have you seen the TV show The Wire?
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's a show in Baltimore, and there's a scene where they would, if you're listening to this, there's a show called The Wire. It's on HBO, and it has it's funny because when they kill people, they put them in this room with this light, and it's this weird. So just imagine we're in the back of an abandoned house. This is what it feels like over here. It's amazing. I love it. There's chairs stacked up. There's guys trying to impress girls by putting chairs out for the ladies. It's just amazing over here. But anyway, so me and Fern met at a radio station. But before that, I got saved around 18, 19. And I started working at a church instantly. I don't know how that happened. I was really responsible on those
Latin
pastors.
way.
Yeah,
I don't
very
know.
Latin way. Like you're an adult. Hey, now you can you're now they're like, we need people, so it's like, just go do this. And so I became like a youth pastor, and so they put me through Bible college, the whole thing. But my pastor had moral failure, and kicked me and staff members off in the middle of church, and was like, you guys aren't with me, so you're against me, basically. And so he, from there, I told God. I mean, that was such a public embarrassment moment. He literally kicked me out of the church, and so that was one part of it. The other part of it is that these are the only men and women of God I really knew at the time, and I didn't know that I was actually being spiritually abused for years, and working through it with my therapist. So it's great to we don't have to talk about mom for a while. We can listen, to this podcast. But anyway, so I had just got out of that situation. Fern had just got out of prison. We met at a radio station. It was like we were transitioning out of our lives into really what God had for us. I always believe that, like, before God calls you, there's a training period, right? So it's like David had to kill a lion and a bear before he could slay Goliath. And so there's a process that you have to go through that refines you. And we're still in the process, I believe that. But for me and Fern, it was like God had to get his attention. For me, it was like God had to get my attention. And this is the best way he knew how to do it, I guess, or just use the situation for our advantage. But I believe that God can take any situation and flip it on its head and make use of it, even as bad as it gets. And I believe that it's like our job as believers to have that. Our testimony is like a muscle, and as we begin to use that muscle, we can lift people out of the holes that they're in. So me and Fern, we met about 10 years ago. I ramble a lot, Will, so I'm really...
No,
you're falling
good,
asleep
bro.
on me? Come on,
No,
Will. Am I boring you?
No,
I'm just kidding.
not,
I'm just
bro.
kidding.
You're good.
I'm just kidding, Will. All right. This is going to be the most viewed, having fun podcast, so I'm excited. And so, yeah, we just met. We started doing music, and then it kind of just took off from there. There was just this period where we just went viral before the term came out. Viral. We were just going viral with songs and music, and we just definitely had a different perspective in the way we viewed faith and the way we viewed God. We believe that we're just a work in progress, that although some people will be like, well, we're still sinners. No, we're saints. We're saved, but we're in the sanctification process. And that's hard. And it's hard to look like, it takes people years to look like, God and like Jesus. And so that's the goal, is to look like Jesus every single day. And, we fail and we get it right sometimes, but we fail. And I think it's important to make Christianity it's a belief system that allows you to fail properly, allows you to understand you made a mistake, we can grow from it, and don't let those mistakes hold you down, because God has given us forgiveness. He's given us the power over the grave. He's defeated death. And so we live supernatural lives as we grow as Christians. And so I just believe, and we've seen in our own lives, God's hand transform lives in us. And so we're all work in progresses. So I don't know where you're at right now listening to this podcast, but just know that you might feel like you are completely trash. You're trash, kid. You might feel like that, but listen, God has a plan for you. And you might feel like you're the best. And let me tell you something, you're not the best. God still has a plan for you. Kill that fly right there. Will. You see that right there? Oh, Fern almost got it.
Man.
There's so much happening here, and you're just like, what's going on in this podcast? Get that fly. Fern's really quick with it.
Yo, my camera
slapped
got
it. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's how we met, and that's how we both came to the Lord.
I was gonna let you guys know if I could share my little story with you guys.
No, please don't. Come on, Will. Let's go. We're family.
Yeah. So I grew up in a very domestic violent home. I grew up in a small reservation in Idaho. My dad was a alcoholic. He was always like, I never saw him sober like as a kid. And my mom, my dad was really abusive towards her, and so she ran away from all of us, and she ended up. I believe she stabbed 2 people, and she ended up going to prison. So she was in prison the majority of my childhood. And then my dad was, especially on a reservation, like the tribal police can't do much, like they knew that us kids were living in this situation, and we were kind of trapped in that. So I grew up with a lot of fear. I grew up with like my arms up, I'm like ready to defend myself. And you would think, my brothers, I have 3 older brothers, and you think they would be the ones like protect you, cheer you on, be your number one supporter. I was getting bullied a lot in school, and I was made fun of my appearance. I was made fun of because my voice is so deep. All these things.
First off, I love your voice. I'm getting Barry White vibes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So like, yeah, and I would go to my brothers, and I'm like, hey man, these kids at school are bullying me. Can you help me with, like, can you say something? They would just jump right in, and they make fun of me too.
Oh.
So I grew up in this whole hopeless situation. I was like, man, I just, I grew up in these traditional ceremonies that we do as well. My dad is actually one that was running the whole thing, and I was next one up, and so time goes on. It was after, I was one of those kids. I think I'm still one of those kids that would like go straight home, play video games, and just chill. I came home one day, and my brother, he barged into my room. He like literally picked me up by the shirt, and he's like, you're a fat loser. And go get a life. You should be in here. You need to get out of here. Like, why you always coming home? Like, he was going at it, and he was like in my face. He flopped me, and then he kicked me on the back of my shoulders. And I stayed on that floor like, okay, yeah, he's right. You know what I mean? Like,
believed it.
Yeah, like, all right, no friends, no family, no nothing. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, what else is there? You know what I mean? And as time goes on, there's a man by his name's Bill Picard. I always give him, if it wasn't for God, if God didn't put him in my life, man. So I was running late to school, and I was, rushing, and so Bill Picard saw me in the distance, and he was yelling my name, like, hey, Will. And
who is he?
He's like a leader, my mentor.
But was he on the reservation?
Oh yeah, he was on. Yeah, he's actually.
Because you guys are in the reservation. It's basically you guys are community.
Yeah.
So he had to be a part of that.
Yeah.
While you're running to school.
Yeah. So he actually he's like one of those guys on the res, the council. So
wow.
Yeah, he was
a big dude, like big top of the council, like.
I would say he was up there, but he's really well known on the reservation, and somehow he knew about me, and so he was like, hey, is your name William Axtell? I was like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, hey man, we're going to this conference called Warrior Leadership Summit, you should come. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, so this whole mindset, it's funny, like, I wouldn't say it's funny, but I actually went to a party. My brothers and my dad always drank. They always ran to the bottle. And as a kid, I always seen my dad like that. I was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like my dad and drink and come home and abuse his family. Like, so I actually ended up just going to this party that I heard about. I go to this party, and I went to the restroom. I looked in the mirror. I just saw my dad. I was like, here, I said I wasn't going to be like him. Here, I'm doing the same stuff he's doing. Like, what the heck? So that all happened, and then I decided to come here, Warrior Leadership Summit with Bill and Lori. I was like, I would love to come, just to see what it's like off the reservation, because I never left the reservation.
How long was this, or was this recent?
No, it was like, I want to say 11 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So as time goes on, they gave us a journal, and this is where I started journaling, started writing like poems and stuff like that. And as I was journaling, they asked me this question, and the question was, what do you expect at this conference? So I was like, yeah, here I was going, like, I was almost writing a whole book. So I was like, yeah. And then what I was writing, I remember I was like, traditional ceremonies not helping, these drugs, alcohol is not helping, these relationships are not helping. Like, all right, let me just come here and give this a try, And at the very end of my paper I was journaling, I said, if this conference doesn't help me or change me, I'm just going to go home and take my life. And as time goes on, I'm like, that was my whole intent. I was like, I just want to see what it's like off the reservation. None of these things were helping. I don't want to go back to my family. I don't want to go back to that hurt. And, last night was night 2 where we saw, I think there was like at least a little over 100 kids that gave their life to Christ last night.
Incredible.
And that was something that I was in that crowd, and I was one of those kids that responded to the gospel, because Jesus, I really heard these 3 words in my head, like, it's something that I can think back to my childhood years. I never heard my dad, my mom, my brothers, my so-called friends say these 3 words, and what those 3 words was, I love you. And, like how you say, like, you ever feel like trash? Like, man, I felt like trash. I was like, bro, I was treated like junk my whole life. Like, that's how I identified myself with, like, I am trash. But Jesus was like, no, you're not trash. You're my masterpiece.
Absolutely.
So ever since then, I would never imagine, be here helping at this conference, helping these young kids, like seeing them give their lives to Christ. I'm just like blown away. I'm
It's
like,
a full circle moment for you.
How long was when was the first time you came to this conference?
2011.
Got you. Wow.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to share that with you guys, there's plenty of kids that may have
That's
same.
what we do it for, man. You're the Misfit mascot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're exactly the demographic that we sing for, and that we do this stuff for. At the end of the day, we've all gone through our stuff. But when I hear the story, like I know you guys didn't really hear me make too much noise, because I'm sitting here, I'm being impacted by this story, my guy. Like, for real.
Yeah.
Like, I've been alive a long time. I'm not gonna say how long, but I'm gonna tell you that, man, I've never heard a story like that. I haven't. I've heard crazy stories, but that's a very I don't know, man. I'm being touched in a different way, because you're standing right in front of me, and the Lord's work. You got a podcast. You're at a major show tonight. You're chilling with us, and we're chilling with you. But it's just a beautiful thing to see what the Lord can do, man. I'm seeing it's wild, man. I'm a little emotional about it, man. Just so you know.
So like one thing that I, by God's grace, I always set my arms up. By God, by the power of Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit, I'm able to have my arms open now to my family, because I was actually able to say, like, I forgive you, Dad.
Wow.
And I forgive you, Mom. I forgive you, my brothers. Like, it's all love here.
So they're all around you guys?
Yeah, but they're still,
still a work in progress.
Yeah, but I let them know, it's like, it's all through Jesus that I'm able to forgive.
Wow. Love that. It's hurt people. I was going to say this while you were telling the story. I didn't want to interrupt, but hurt people.
Yeah.
And I don't know it's not an excuse for us to act out. But when people are hurt, they are in survival mode. And it seems like your dad, your mom, and your brothers, and you all went through a lot of hurt. And what we do with that hurt defines us, And so you're using your hurt to help others, to reach others. And I think it's incredible. I think that the gospel is literally living it through your life. The idea that you could forgive somebody who's wronged you so deeply, I don't know if I could do that. And there's people in my life who have hurt me in the past, and I always say I'm over it, but I'm not. And so I know that is a miracle in a sense. So that's amazing to hear that, Will. And I'm so glad that we got to meet you and that we become family through this.
Yeah, definitely.
I do like your voice, though. I think you have a really. I'm reading some of the comments online, and the ladies saying that they love your voice, Will. So I think you got to keep. Don't do any dynamics. Just keep it low, Barry White style.
That's laid back. You make us feel real comfortable. It's a good vibe. Yeah.
ASMR voice. I love it. I just need you to read the Bible. Just hear the Bible in your voice.
You and Morgan. You go on tour with Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, you and Morgan Freeman. Iconic voices. Yeah.
I was going to ask you guys one last question. Is that cool with you guys?
There you go. Come on, Will. Come on.
I got the sign.
Yeah. What did the sign say?
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
No, we're here, Will.
All right. So I was going to ask you guys, like, if you guys feel free to answer it. If it's, I don't want to, come out wrong or anything.
Yeah, I can't wait. Now you're like making words.
Forget that question. Go to another one.
What was this question? Tell me.
I was like, what is the challenge, to have a big platform you guys have, eyes are on you, the platform's there.
Yeah.
What would you say like a challenge would be having that high of a platform?
I would say it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. Is like, we worked really hard to be where we're at, and we have fun and we like to enjoy the moment, and we enjoy not taking ourselves too seriously because we love people, we love connecting to everybody, and we know that everyone has a story, whether it's perfect story or not an imperfect story. But no one's perfect, but it's just we all come from different places. And it's like I said before, sometimes there's like a reset button that I feel like God causes us to press sometimes. And it's like, don't forget that you prayed for the miracle, and don't get too comfortable walking in the miracle that you forget that you're literally in a miracle. And so, like, I think about your story, like 11 years ago, you accept the call to God and you're like, God, I wish I could do this. And then you get to do it. And then you're like, all right, I wish it was bigger. I wish it was better. But no, like, there's a process to this. And I think even like David in the Bible, like David becomes king, and then he, uses his power to kill a girl's husband, into Bathsheba. And then when you start to take advantage, or you start to not appreciate the miracle that God has given you, I think there's drastic consequences. I bet you could find somewhere in Scripture that talks, maybe even the Scripture where the guy gets healed and only the one guy comes back and says, thank you, like, I love you, you're God. Like, maybe that's, there's some theological way to connect that, but I know that when you're in the miracle, and I can tell you this, if you prayed and you've worked hard for something, be appreciative, be grateful, be thankful. Absolutely. And I think that fuels God. I always feel like God's words of affirmation, love. He needs to hear, I'm grateful. Enter his courts with thanksgiving. Enter, praise. Like, there's levels to this. And so I would say, wherever you are in your life, whether it's good or bad, the vision you have for your life, don't get to the place where you're too comfortable in the miracle. And just sometimes take a second, breathe, look around, and just appreciate where you are.
It's true, man. I could speak personally from that. Just even in the last few months, we just finished writing an album, and there was a moment there that insecurity tried to creep in, and just unsureness of something I've been doing all my life. You know what I mean? And I just remember I'll tell you exactly how it happened. I didn't have like this big scientific drawn out conversation. But when I started feeling those feelings, I directly, because I know where my faith goes to. So I remember I was in my backyard, and I directly, looked up. I was in my patio, so I'm looking at the metal tin roof, right? But I looked up, and I said, God, I get it. Like, I hear it. And I'll be honest, man, and we need another podcast. I want to tell this story one day on your podcast. But I was, not sure of myself, and I've always been very sure of myself. And then I just started to wonder what was happening, what was really happening. And I realized when I looked up and I said, God, what's going on? He's like, you've been relying on your own understanding. You've been relying on your own. It's me. It's not you. You don't write. You use your hand, you move, but I made that. I made your wrist. You type, but I do that. You're breathing because he's literally writing it. So I had that moment. I shared with him and I shared with some other people. But even now, the process is whenever I write, because I know what happened, is like, God, what we writing today. And just to piggyback off what you said, I think the I can't think of the scripture, but the parable of the talents.
Yeah.
How he gave to the 3 gentlemen and he came back to see. You know what I mean? And I really tie that into me, and I'll be so transparent. I was so comfortable in the miracle that I forgot it was a miracle. And I was in prison praying for it. And I've been home. And it's real, dude. It can happen, man. And it happened to me. So now I'm in the process of walking out from that stronger than I've ever been. But it's tough. It's tough, especially when you know where you came from. You got the miracle. You're in the miracle. And now you're questioning them. Like, what? What's going on here? Why are you allowing these things to come into your mind? See, it's all mindset. You got to protect your mind. That's right. That's one thing I'll tell everybody. Right. If I make a point, because we've all dropped some jewels on this pod, but protect your mind. That's right. Protect your heart, protect your mind, protect your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Same way, and Marty knows I'm a big health nut. I watch what I put in my body and this and that. But it don't just mean food. things that anything that can be consumed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the story last week. I was telling a story. We'll end here, but I was watching the Anthony Bourdain documentary, and he killed himself on my birthday, June 8th, 2000, a couple years ago. And I was watching it, and I literally had a dream, and I saw myself hanging. And I know it's very explicit, but like my conscience picked up when I was watching because I was so obsessed. And so yeah, I feel like you gotta watch, like what Fern said, you gotta watch what you watch, you listen to. Like sometimes, like in the past I've watched John Wick, and then I wake up and, you know, in my dream I'm shooting everyone. I'm like, because you're watching an action movie, you know. So sometimes what it stays on you, and you got to be careful of what that is. So whether it's movies or music or even what you're watching, you gotta make sure that you're protecting your spirit, your mind, your soul. So.
And real quick, people would always say, I know people have heard that and could say that, hey, you guys are talking cliche, but let me tell you something. Before, when they used to tell you protect what you see, back in the 90s or something, they were talking about television.
Yeah.
Now, and a movie theater possibly. Now, protect what you see, we're constantly seeing on our phones, on our hands, 24 hours a day. So if you ever had to protect your heart, mind, soul, you have to do it more than ever. You know, so that's it, man. Shout out to everybody.
We love you, Will. Let's clap it up for Will in this place. Hey, good, you gotta do this, Will. That's come on. We love you, brother. Thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Like, this is really, you know, something that I will look back a few years and like, man.
Yay, much love to everybody on the res. All over the United States, we got love for everybody.
Yeah, we love you. Thank you again for Will for having us, man.
All right, thank you guys. Peace out.
Love you, Will. Peace.